Remember how I was telling you I've been having some issues with something eating my squash from the inside out? Well, I finally figured out what it is. It's called a pickleworm. And I found, you can see it right here. See this little green guy? See all this stuff all over it? It's called frass. They bury their little, they go inside their little flowers. You see that little hole? And this is where they start out. This is where the pickleworm moth lays its eggs. You'll notice them on the actual flower. So if you ever see damage like this, remove them, because what they do, they end up boring more holes into the actual stalk of the plant. And then the real damage happens right here. See this little guy? He has succumbed to the pickleworm. Now, once they get inside your squash, there's really nothing you can do. They eat everything from the inside, and if you cut it open, it will just be goo. It's not pleasant. Squash bug. I noticed there was a chicken out. I had to grab her real quick. These little bantams, they are so little. Sometimes they'll get out through the wires. So I went ahead and clipped her wings, so that's not going to happen again. So they will eat the inside of your squash or melons. Sometimes they'll go after melons, but they prefer squash. And then your fruit is doomed. If they get in there, it's just done. So it's best to find them when you see them on the flowers. And you see evidence. See, I found one here. And the frass is their droppings, from my understanding. Now, the interesting thing about these little guys is that they can't survive here in Georgia. It's too cold. They come from Florida. So I blame you, Florida. I'm just joking. But, so they come from Florida, they migrate up, and they've been found as far north as like Connecticut, which I'm assuming a storm blew them that far. For the most part, they're going to be found in Georgia and the Carolinas. And that's why we don't find them until later on in the season with our winter squashes. With all my summer squash, I never had this issue. They hadn't arrived yet. So they arrive later on in the season, and you'll have them in your pumpkins and all your winter squashes. Last year, we ended up losing our pumpkin crop to these little pickleworms. But now that I know what to look for, there's more evidence of them here. I can remove them at this stage and hopefully be able to identify and see their eggs. I've only seen them in pictures, their eggs. They're kind of a brownish, coppery color. The moth will generally lay about 8. And in her life cycle, she can lay up to 400. And their full life cycle lasts about 30 days. And they can go through 4 of those life. Generally, in your garden, they can go up to 4 of those life cycles. I see it. Something up there. Especially here in Georgia. So, it's important to look out for these guys. Now, if you are into spraying your garden or you want to use some sort of organic spray, you're going to want to do it on the flowers and the stalks. That's where you'll find the eggs, and you'll first see the worms until they eventually make their way to the squash, and that's when you're doomed at that point. See some, these are some eggs here. This is a different. This looks like a, whatchamacallit, squash soldier beetle. Now, there are beneficial insects that will eat these guys, like the soldier beetle. There's some beneficial soldier beetles out there that will eat them for you. Here you go, guys. So when they are babies, when they first hatch, they are kind of a clearish white, and they have spots. I don't know if you can see that. If not, I'll put a picture. But this is when they first hatch, and as they grow, they end up turning, depending on what they're eating really, a white to a coppery bronze color. The ones I've seen in their older phase are white, and when they make a cocoon, they're going to do it on the underside of generally a dead leaf. So if you look on your leaves and you notice, like, it's going to look just like a spider web. It doesn't even really look like a cocoon. You'll just see a bunch of white spidery webs under a leaf. So if you see that, remove it, because then that little guy will hatch and make another moth, and the whole life cycle starts over again, and you don't want that. Now that I know what to look for, I can prevent this from happening next year. But my garlic is sprouting, you guys. Come see. Oh, this one, look. You see how fast that was? That was just last week that I planted these guys. I'm telling you, soaking them does make a difference. Another one. They're all popping up. Boop, boop, boop. How fun. If you see here, this Long Island cheese, I mean, this is just one plant, you guys. It goes over here, all the way over here, and over here, and it just keeps going, see? This one too. In fact, I'm gonna go ahead and go over, the weather's so nice today, it's nice and warm. This one's getting some fruit. I'm gonna go through today and I'm gonna check for these little guys and remove them before they get to this squash here. Because hopefully these guys will mature before the frost, but we'll see. We generally here in Georgia get our first frost in November, and we are in October right now. I think it's October 16th. I'm not seeing any evidence of them here on this plant. I do see some darn lady squash beetles though. We squash the squash beetles. Squish them. Oh, and we've got some friends here. We've got our little harvester spiders, or daddy longlegs as people like to call them. These guys are great. They will eat the bad bugs for you in the garden. And oddly enough, they also like to eat bird droppings. Is that not weird? Interesting thing about these little guys in the fall, they like to group up together in these large clumps. You can see them in the thousands in some areas. It's kind of creepy looking. They don't really know why they do this. There's the theories. The theory is that they, during the time when the weather starts to cool down, they try to keep themselves humid and warmer that way. I don't think that makes sense to me, though. But who knows? Fun little guys, though, huh? You know, now that I know what these little guys, what to look for, they're pretty easy to spot, the evidence of them. Ah, see evidence right here. See all that? That's their droppings, and I'm gonna, assume it's in this flower right here. You see the hole? I don't see it in here, so we'll look around to see if it's moving around anywhere else. Wasn't able to find that one. Oh, I see here. Look at how this one already bored into this little starting fruit. Now your good soldier bugs, they will eat these little pickleworms and the eggs. So they're good to identify and know what they look like so you don't end up squishing them, because they'll help you out. This poor plant got it pretty good. I don't think it's gonna produce any more fruit. I'm sad about that pumpkin there. Looks like I need to water out here. Oh my goodness, look at this. Look at this little tiny Tahitian melon. Is that not the cutest thing? Yeah, I want to check this guy because we've got 2 squashes and I don't want to lose them to the pickleworms. But it's so tall, I think I'm going to have to get a ladder out here. Just from looking around, I'm not seeing evidence. Possibly right there, if you see that hole in that stalk. No, I don't see any of the droppings, but it's also where my little frog friend likes to hang out, so he might be helping me out too. I just wanted to share that with you guys. I was very happy to finally figure out what they were. I was having a hard time searching it because a lot of the other stuff that would come up were the borers, the vine boring worms. And I knew this is not what was going on with these guys, so I'm glad I was able to finally figure it out. Nate's up there. We got a nice thing of baby back ribs, and he's smoking it. He's gonna be smoking it all day, so I'm gonna go hang out with him and probably grab a ladder and come down here briefly and just give this guy a little check down, make sure he's not having any pickleworm issues. Anyway, y'all, thanks for hanging out with me today, and we'll see you next time.